In this mysterious forest, any traveler who entered would immediately be watched by strange, cursed people who had been living there for years, and eventually, those travelers would also become trapped in the same curse. The adventure begins by showing an old, isolated house where a man has been brutally tied up. His girlfriend, who he deeply loves, is also tied up in the same way in another room. A mysterious man dressed in black had brought them both here, and it's clear he's no friend. He's armed with several weapons and is torturing them. This place is deep inside the forest, and no one knows how these two even ended up here, but it's obvious the stranger won't hesitate to kill them. Suddenly, the girlfriend manages to free herself and starts searching for her boyfriend. She finds him, but he keeps begging her to escape, warning her that the man is extremely dangerous and will kill them both. While he urges her to run, the man in black starts chasing her. The terrified girl flees straight into the forest, running as far as she can, unaware that no matter where she goes, he will continue hunting her. Holding sharp weapons, he follows her relentlessly. Eventually, she becomes trapped. There's a massive rocky cliff in front of her with no path to escape, and behind her, the terrifying man appears, laughing quietly as he pulls out a blade. Already traumatized by everything they've suffered, the girl panics, and with no other choice left, she jumps off the cliff and ends her life. But what happened to her boyfriend, and who are these dangerous people? Soon, the story reveals the truth. Outside the forest, we meet Mike and Serene, a couple who aren't married but love each other deeply. They've taken time off to enjoy a vacation here, planning to explore different spots in the forest and go camping, and most importantly, enjoy the privacy they'll get out in the wilderness. They only think they'll be safe, but they have no idea how many terrifying things are waiting for them inside. For now, Mike and Serene carry all their gear to a forest officer and ask him which new spots they can explore. The officer explains that the entire forest is surrounded by untouched nature, meaning they can camp anywhere. It's completely safe. He only advises them to take their devices along because the forest is extremely dense, and if they get lost, they can contact him. Mike and Serene understand everything, but the real problem is that both of them leave their phones in the car because they don't want any distractions. They spend too much time on their phones anyway, and this vacation is supposed to be peaceful. Carrying all their camping gear, they head deeper into the forest. Soon, they meet a local woman named Becky who lives nearby. Mike and Serene ask her to suggest a good spot, and Becky gives them directions to a mountain area with a beautiful view. She says they'll love it. Grateful for the info, they thank her and continue onward. Now completely alone, the couple starts getting intimate in the open area of the forest. But just as they get close, a few hunters wander in and interrupt them. Mike and Serene quickly grab their clothes, feeling embarrassed. The three strangers stare at Serene in a disturbing way, which angers Mike, but he can't confront them because they're armed. Thankfully, the hunters say they aren't there to hurt anyone, they're just passing through and want to buy some drugged water from Mike and Serene, offering a lot of money in return. Mike gets angry and reaches into his wallet, trying to pull out a gun, but Serene stops him, saying she doesn't want any chaos and that they should just give the men the money so they will leave. Mike calms down and hands them the cash, and the three strangers finally walk away, allowing Mike and Serene to continue their journey. After a while, they run into another officer who patrols the area. He asks what they're doing there, and the couple explains that they're camping and even ask him for suggestions on the best campsite. The officer warns them to be extremely careful because a couple went missing in the same forest just last week, but Mike and Serene ignore the warning and only want to know the best spot to set up camp. Following the officer's directions, they reach the location and set up a beautiful campsite. The atmosphere is peaceful, and the two grow closer as night falls. Sitting by the fire, they eventually head into their tent and enjoy their time together. Later, Serene suggests they should think about getting married, but Mike becomes uncomfortable. He isn't ready, so he harshly says no. Serene is hurt, and her expression falls. As they sleep, a mysterious figure watches them from the distance, but its full form isn't visible. The next morning, Serene goes to bathe in a nearby pond, enjoying the cold water, unaware that the same man in black is standing on the other side, staring at her. After a while, she gets out and starts getting dressed, completely unaware that he is now standing right behind her. Suddenly, the man grabs her, and Serene screams, but she gets no chance to defend herself as he kidnaps her and takes her away. A little later, when Mike wakes up and steps outside, he doesn't see his girlfriend anywhere. Panicking, he calls her name over and over, but gets no response. Not far away, he spots two men who look like part of the same gang, and notices they are holding one of Serene's pieces of clothing. Instantly, suspicion hits him. Did these men kidnap her? Furious, he charges at them and attacks. He manages to knock one of them unconscious while the other runs away in fear. Mike injures the remaining man and demands to know where Serene is, but the man insists he has no idea. He insists they were only there to hunt, but Mike yells that they were holding his girlfriend's clothing. The man simply replies that he found it lying on the ground and picked it up, claiming he knows nothing else. As they argue, the man secretly pulls out a knife, trying to stab Mike, but Mike is ready and knocks him unconscious. Now Mike is completely lost. He has no idea where to search for Serene in this massive forest, full of confusing paths leading in every direction. He checks every place he can think of, cliffs, dense woods, hoping she might be there. Hours pass, and the weight of responsibility crushes him. He promised to protect her, yet now he can't even find her. Suddenly, he hears something rustling behind the bushes. When he checks, he finds a dead bear, a horrifying sight that makes him step back in fear. But he doesn't realize there's a trap set on the ground below him. It's meant for animals, but when Mike accidentally steps on it, the metal jaws snap shut on his leg. The sharp spikes stab into his skin, causing unbearable pain. The injury is so severe that he can barely stand, let alone walk. Mike struggles helplessly until Becky, the same local woman they met earlier, unexpectedly appears. She stares at him for a moment, then helps him, saying her house is nearby and she can treat him. She brings him home, removes the trap, and applies strange herbal medicines to his wounds, claiming they will heal quickly. But the wounds are deep, and she insists he rest there for a while. Mike is confused and anxious, but he has no choice, he's too injured to leave. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door. Becky opens it to find the leader of the 3 hunters standing outside. He has learned that a tourist named Mike attacked his men and is searching everywhere to take revenge. Becky lies to him, saying no one named Mike has come to her house and she doesn't know any tourist by that name. With no clues, the leader leaves. Becky shuts the door and returns to Mike, but she calls him Michael instead of Mike. Shocked, Mike asks how she knows his real name, since only his family calls him that. Becky doesn't answer, but Mike realizes his passport is missing. Maybe Becky stole it and saw his real name written there. Becky gives him something to drink, saying it will make him stronger, but Mike doesn't trust her at all. When he tries to leave, Becky grabs an iron rod and warns him that he cannot go anywhere. He must stay here, at least until all the rituals are completed. Before Becky can attack, Mike manages to defend himself, knocks her to the ground, and immediately starts searching for his girlfriend. As he scans the house, he discovers a door in the floor leading straight down to a basement. Mike opens it and calls out for Serene as he descends into the darkness. The basement is pitch black, lined with glass containers filled with strange preserved creatures, odd species, deformed beings, even unborn fetuses, enough to terrify anyone at first glance. Mike is horrified, but as he explores further, he finally finds Serene tied up. He quickly frees her, and she, trembling in fear, whispers that they need to escape immediately before he returns. Mike doesn't understand who she means, until their worst fear comes true. The same disfigured man who kidnapped Serene appears in the basement. Before Mike can react, the man brutally attacks him, injuring him severely and knocking him unconscious. Serene manages to escape and runs deep into the forest with the man chasing close behind. She screams for help, but no one is around. Eventually, she reaches a road just as a police officer's car approaches, the same officer who had helped them earlier by directing them to a campsite. Desperate, Serene begs him for help, saying a stranger is trying to kill her. The officer calmly reassures her, saying he has a weapon and will protect her. But the next moment, the man in black appears behind the officer. Terrified, Serene collapses, but instead of defending her, the officer scolds the black-clad man, asking how he could be so careless and let Serene escape. In that moment, Serene realizes the awful truth: the officer is working with him. As soon as Serene tried to escape, the officer grabbed a rod and struck her on the head, knocking her out on the spot. The poor girl escaped one danger only to fall into another. Moments later, we see a wedding setup where Mike and Serene have been placed at the front with their mouths taped shut. They're dressed like a bride and groom. A priest sits before them, chanting what seems like wedding vows, completely unaware of the twisted ritual taking place. The officer and Becky are also present, dressed and ready, almost as if they're forcing Mike and Serene to get married. The officer even starts chanting the vows, making it clear that everything is happening against their will. Becky then begins explaining that the black-clad, dangerous man is her brother Deacon, who enjoys torturing people and doesn't think like a normal human, so he blindly follows whatever she tells him. Becky knows Mike and Serene aren't married, yet they've been intimate with each other, which she claims is a grave sin before marriage according to their beliefs. She says she wants to fix this wrongdoing by marrying them off so their supposed sin is erased. Mike and Serene, unable to speak with their mouths taped shut, are helpless as the forced wedding takes place. Afterward, the two are locked in separate rooms. Deacon goes to Serene and begins touching her inappropriately, but thankfully Becky arrives just in time and orders him to leave. Meanwhile, the officer visits Mike and reveals a disturbing truth. Becky is his wife, but due to genetic issues, they cannot have children. So he, Becky, and her brother Deacon want Mike and Serene to have a child together. Their plan is to take that baby as their own. The officer warns Mike that if he refuses, they'll unleash Deacon on him, and Deacon can hurt him however he wants. Becky tells Serene something similar, and the terrified girl breaks down, begging to be released. Becky only smiles coldly, showing she has no intention of letting them go. Soon, Mike and Serene are brought into a room together, Serene positioned in a way that forces them closer, clearly expecting them to comply. Everything happening is completely against their will. The captors shut the door on them and wait outside for them to finish the job. Mike and Serene know exactly what's expected, but in such horrific circumstances, they refuse to go near each other. Mike tried desperately to escape, but the injury on his leg from the trap only got worse, leaving him even weaker. Exhausted, he lay down beside his unconscious wife, unable to comprehend how a simple vacation had turned into a nightmare. Hours later, Becky, the officer, and Deacon entered the room and dragged Mike into another room, locking him inside. Becky checked whether the two had done what they were forced to do, but she quickly told her husband and Deacon that they hadn't. All three became furious. They tied Mike's hands, stripped off his clothes, and stood before him as if ready to torture him. In a situation where your hands and feet are tied and you're surrounded by deranged people who won't hesitate to hurt you, the first priority becomes escaping the restraints. If the ropes are tied too tightly to move, there's a technique often shown in survival series, like in an episode of Money Heist, where you dislocate or slightly break your thumb to slip your hand out of rope or even handcuffs. It's painful, but it works, and once free, you grab any weapon you can and fight back, because these psychopaths may look normal, but they'll never show mercy. The faster you free yourself and your partner, the better your chances of escaping. But Mike and Serene were already too weak to fight. Deacon and the officer began brutally beating Mike, scratching up his back and pouring alcohol on his wounds, making the pain unbearable. Meanwhile, Becky attacked Serene too. She even cut off one of her fingers, leaving the poor girl screaming helplessly. Outside, the officer had pushed Mike's car into the water so no other officer investigating the missing tourists would notice anything suspicious. Soon after, the gang's leader arrived and asked about the tourists he had been looking for. The officer lied, saying they must have left, but the leader became suspicious. He had seen their car parked the night before, and now it was gone. Something was definitely wrong. Later, Becky, the officer, and Deacon returned and brought Mike and Serene back into the room once again, ordering them to have sex because they needed that baby no matter what. After forcing them inside, they locked the door and left the terrified couple alone. At one point, Serene became completely exhausted and asked Mike if they should just give in, but Mike refused, explaining that even if they did what these people wanted and ended up having a baby, they would take the child and kill both of them afterward. Because of that, the two agreed that no matter how much they were tortured, they would never participate in this twisted plan. Meanwhile, at the police station, a female officer was shown investigating Serene's disappearance after her mother filed a complaint saying she hadn't come home for days. As the investigation continued, another officer shared some details, revealing that Serene had gone out with her boyfriend Mike and their car had been tracked near a forest, suggesting that the search should begin there. Back at the house, when Becky, Deacon, and the officer entered the room, they realized Mike and Serene still hadn't done what they demanded. Furious, the officer signaled Deacon to hurt Mike. Suddenly, the officer's walkie-talkie crackled. Another officer, the same female one, was asking if they had seen any tourists in the area. Hearing the voice, Mike screamed for help, but Deacon quickly covered his mouth and knocked him unconscious. Nobody knew whether the police had heard him or not. When asked about the missing tourists, the corrupt officer simply lied, saying they hadn't seen anyone. But now they understood that more officers might start searching for them soon. Meanwhile, the female officer reached the forest and met the gang's leader, showing him photos of the missing couple and asking if he had seen them. He initially denied it, but when she mentioned a reward for helping the investigation, he agreed to assist. Back at the house, Deacon approached Serene again, trying to assault her, tormenting her endlessly, until Becky stepped in and stopped him, reminding both of them that the ritual wasn't finished yet. Until their ritual was complete, Serene was supposed to remain completely pure. Because Mike and Serene refused to cooperate, Becky, Deacon, and the officer discussed torturing them even more. Mike was helpless, but suddenly Serene began laughing strangely and revealed that she couldn't be made pregnant, because she was already a few months pregnant. Hearing this, Becky and the officer were shocked. According to their ritual and their twisted interpretation of the Bible, pregnancy was only acceptable after marriage, and Serene and Mike had conceived before the forced wedding. This meant their ritual was ruined halfway, and none of them had any idea what consequences this would bring for Mike and Serene. Meanwhile, the gang leader and his partner had begun sneaking into Becky's house because they suspected that the missing tourists were being held there, and capturing them could earn a huge reward from the police. As soon as they broke the door open, Becky and the officer realized intruders had entered and prepared to attack. One partner found the basement door but was immediately killed by the officer from behind. The leader kept moving inside until he spotted Becky pointing a gun at him. Without hesitation, she shot him dead. They quickly buried both bodies, knowing the police could arrive at any moment. But Becky broke down crying. Mike and Serene still hadn't done what she needed for the ritual, and without it, her plan could never be completed. Soon she decided she wanted to force an abortion on Serene, but the officer stopped her, even that violated their twisted religious rules. They needed another solution. The officer told his wife they would kill Mike and Serene and then find another couple to replace them so the ritual could be completed properly. They headed toward the room to finish them off. Inside, Mike managed to free himself just in time. When the officer arrived with a gun to shoot him, Mike lunged forward and slashed his throat. The officer collapsed, and Mike grabbed his gun and shot him, knowing it was kill or be killed. When Becky walked in moments later and saw her husband dead, she screamed and attacked Mike with a knife, stabbing him repeatedly until he collapsed, bleeding out on the floor. Just when it seemed Mike wouldn't survive, Serene appeared behind Becky and struck her on the head with an iron rod, knocking her unconscious. This gave them one final chance to escape. Supporting the injured Mike, Serene helped him outside, but Mike insisted they had to go back for the officer's walkie-talkie. It was their only hope of calling for help. Mike's leg was badly injured, so Serene went back inside alone to look for the walkie-talkie. Just as she was about to leave, she realized Deacon had returned and had seen the dead bodies of Becky and the officer. Furious, he lunged at her. Serene tried desperately to escape, but Deacon chased her everywhere. In a quick moment of opportunity, she grabbed a cross and slashed his throat, managing to slip away, but Deacon still kept coming after her. Thinking fast, Serene grabbed some alcohol and a lighter. She threw the alcohol onto Deacon's body and then lit him on fire. The flames spread instantly, and Deacon collapsed, burning alive. Serene rushed back to the severely wounded Mike, holding him as they tried to figure out how to escape. But suddenly, they realized Becky was still alive. She came at them from behind with an iron rod. Mike saw her just in time and pushed Serene out of the way, taking the blow himself. He collapsed in agony, and Serene, unable to watch him suffer, grabbed a sharp tool from behind her and slashed Becky's throat, finally killing her. With the threat gone, they knew they had to escape immediately. Serene covered Mike's wounds as best she could and encouraged him not to give up. But the walkie-talkie was completely smashed, leaving them with no way to contact anyone for help. Serene luckily finds a small cell phone that still works, so she quickly turns it on and contacts the officer, confirming that they will be rescued. Then the story jumps ahead 1 year, where Serene and Mike are now living their lives together. Mike's injuries have completely healed. The two sit happily in their room, looking ahead with joy, and we find out they now have a healthy baby. Their family looks peaceful and full of laughter. After putting their baby to sleep, they step into another room, but at that very moment, we see a shadowy figure standing outside the window holding a sharp weapon, the same type of weapon Deacon used. This hints that Deacon may still be alive and might have come back for revenge. And with that, our terrifying story ends here.